This is Everyday Tension. Real stories based on real experiences about everyday conflicts people rarely talk about. This story was shared anonymously. If you'd like, you can support the channel by liking or subscribing and let me know in the comments where you're listening from. Here's what happened.
It started when the test showed 2 lines. I remember sitting on the edge of the bathtub, just staring at it. My hands were shaking. I wasn't scared, not exactly. More like the ground had shifted under me, and I was waiting to see where it would settle. I told my husband Mark that night. He hugged me so tight I couldn't breathe, in a good way. We were happy. It felt like us against the world. Or for it, I guess. Mark called his mum the next day. I could hear her squealing through the phone from across the kitchen. "My first grandbaby," she kept saying. "I'm going to spoil that child rotten." "You'll never need a babysitter. I'll be there all the time. Just wait and see." I smiled at that. My own parents live across the country. The idea of having family close by, especially a grandmother who seemed so eager, felt like a gift. I pictured her bringing over food, holding the baby while I took a shower, maybe folding some tiny laundry. The kind of help you see in movies. I didn't just want it, I think I needed to believe it was coming. The pregnancy was hard. Morning sickness that lasted all day, every day, for the first 4 months. Then it was heartburn, and my feet swelling up like balloons. Through it all, my mother-in-law, Carol, had advice. She'd call and ask how I was, and before I could finish saying tired, she'd launch in. "You need to drink ginger tea. Not that store-bought stuff. You have to boil the root. Are you getting enough protein? The baby needs protein. You look a little pale in the pictures Mark sent. Are you sure you're taking your vitamins?" It was constant. If I mentioned a food craving, she'd tell me why it was bad for the baby. If I said I was resting, she'd say, "Good, you need to store up your energy for the sleepless nights." It was never just a conversation. It was a review of my performance. I started avoiding her calls. I'd let them go to voicemail and text back later. "Sorry, was napping," or "doctor's appointment." It felt sneaky and small, but it was the only way to get break from the commentary. "Mark, Mum says hi, hopes you're feeling better." He seemed oblivious to the subtext, to the pressure in every well-meaning word. He's always been like that with her. He loves her, but he tunes her out. It's a skill he developed over a lifetime. I was a rookie. Lucas was born in October. He was perfect. Small, with a shock of dark hair and these serious grey-blue eyes that seemed to take in the whole world. The first 2 weeks were a blur of feedings and diapers and a love so huge it felt like it might crack my ribs open. My mum flew in and stayed for 10 days. She cooked, she cleaned, she held Lucas while I slept. She didn't offer a single piece of advice unless I asked. "You're his mother," she'd say. "You'll figure it out." It was the greatest thing she could have given me. Carol came over the day after my mum left. She brought a giant casserole dish of tuna noodle bake, which she knows I don't eat. I'm vegan, have been for years. Mark eats it, so it's fine, but it felt like a message. Like, this is real food for my son, who needs it. She swept in, barely said hello to me, and made a beeline for the bassinet. "There's my grandson," she cooed. She picked him up before I could say anything. He was sleeping. "Oh, you're letting him sleep on his back." "We always put babies on their tummies. They sleep more soundly." I just stood there, holding the casserole dish, still in my sweatpants. "The doctor said, back is safest," I said, my voice thin. "Well, doctors change their minds every day," she said, not looking at me, swaying with Lucas. "You didn't swaddle him very tight. He likes to be snug. She proceeded to unwrap the blanket I'd just put on him and re-swaddle him tighter. My hands were fists at my sides. That visit set the pattern. She'd come over, usually unannounced, though we kept asking her to call first. "I was just in the neighborhood," she'd say. She never called. She'd come in, head straight for Lucas, and play with him. She'd make funny faces, talk in a high-pitched voice, dangle toys. For an hour, maybe. Then, as soon as he'd fuss or need a change, she'd bring him to me. I was talking to his daughter. I was talking to my friends. "I think someone's hungry for his mama," she'd say. Or, "Oops, stinky?" That's a mum job. She'd hand him over and go sit at the kitchen table with Mark, if he was home, or just browse on her phone. One afternoon, I was desperate for sleep. Lucas had been up every hour the night before with gas. My eyes were gritty. My head throbbed. Carol was over, playing with him on his activity mat. I saw my chance. "Carol, would you mind watching him for just 20 minutes so I can lie down?" "He just ate. You should be happy." She looked up, a strained smile on her face. "Oh, honey, you know I'd love to, but my back is acting up today. I can't be on the floor like this for long. You go ahead. I'll just keep him company here." She went back to tickling his feet. I stood in the doorway for a second, then turned and went to the bedroom. I didn't sleep. I lay there staring at the ceiling, listening to her coo at my son, feeling this hot, hard knot of anger in my stomach. I wasn't asking her to lift a car. I was asking her to sit in the living room with her grandson for 20 minutes so his mother didn't collapse. It wasn't about her back. It was about what was convenient for her. Playing with a happy baby was convenient. Dealing with a potentially fussy one wasn't. The comments kept coming. They were like little paper cuts. "You're bottle feeding already?" she asked one day, watching me prepare formula. "I breastfed Mark for a full year. It's the best bond." I'd tried. God, I'd tried. My milk never really came in. The lactation consultant, the pills, the pumping every 2 hours around the clock. I'd sit there at 3 a.m. hooked up to that whirring machine, getting drops, crying from exhaustion and failure. Mark finally said, "Honey, it's okay. Formula's fine. He just needs to be fed." Switching to formula felt like a surrender, but it also let me breathe for the first time since he was born. And now she was tapping on that bruise. "This is what works for us," I said, my voice tight. Then it was about his sleep. "He's in his own room already? He's so little. He must feel so alone in there." We had him in a crib next to our bed. It was the same setup she'd seen a dozen times. She was just looking for things to question. It was about food when we started solids. "Avocado? Again? Where's the meat? He needs iron. You can't raise him on this vegan stuff. It's not natural for a growing boy." I'd clench my jaw and say, "His pediatrician is happy with his diet." She'd just shake her head and sigh, like I was being stubborn and difficult, endangering her grandson. I complained to Mark. At first, I tried to be light about it. "Your mom is a character," I'd say. "She sure has a lot of opinions." He'd shrug. "That's just mom. She doesn't mean anything by it. Ignore her." But you can't ignore someone who is in your living room, holding your child, questioning your every move. It got heavier. "She undermines me," I'd say. "She makes me feel like I don't know what I'm doing." He'd get a pained look. "What do you want me to do? She's my mum. She's excited. Just talk to her." Talking to her felt impossible. How do you say, "Everything you say makes me feel like crap," without starting a war? The resentment built slowly, like water wearing away stone. I started dreading the sound of her car in the driveway. My shoulders would tense up the moment I heard her voice. I'd find myself rehearsing answers to criticisms she hadn't even made yet. I was constantly on the defensive in my own home. The breaking point came from something Mark let slip. We were having a rare, calm evening. Lucas was asleep. We were on the couch, watching some dumb show. Out of nowhere, Mark said, "You know, you really are doing a great job with him." It was so sweet and unexpected that I immediately got suspicious. "Thanks," I said. "Where's that coming from?" He shifted, uncomfortable. "Nothing, just, you know. My mum was saying something the other day, and I don't agree with her." My blood went cold. "Saying what?" He tried to backtrack. "It's not a big deal. She's from a different generation." "Mark, what did she say?" He sighed, putting down the remote. "She was over when you went to get your haircut that Saturday. She was going on about how it's important for mothers to be present, how she never left me with a sitter, not once, how it's a mother's duty to sacrifice. She implied that you going out for a couple of hours for yourself was you not taking the job seriously." He rushed to read. "I told her that was ridiculous, that you're an amazing mum, that you deserve a break, that we trust the sitter completely." I sat there, stunned. That haircut. It was the first time I'd done anything for myself in months. I felt guilty the whole time, checking my phone, rushing back. And she used that, my little bit of stolen time, to try and poison my husband against me, to plant a seed of doubt about my commitment. She wasn't just criticizing me to my face, she was working on Mark behind my back. This wasn't just annoying. This was sabotage. I didn't yell. I felt very quiet, very clear. "She said that to you? About me?" Mark nodded, looking miserable. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I knew it would upset you, and I shut it down. I didn't want to start a fight." "By not telling me, you let her think it was okay to talk about me that way to you. You let her think there might be an audience for it." He didn't have an answer to that. That night, lying in bed, I knew I couldn't let it slide anymore. This wasn't about hurt feelings. This was about the foundation of our family. My family. I grew up in a house where my parents fought constantly. Yelling, slamming doors, the heavy silence afterward that was worse than the noise. My mum did sacrifice everything, and she made sure we knew it. Every day. It was a debt we could never repay. I promised myself my kids would never feel that weight, that instability. Our home would be peaceful. It would be safe. And right now, Carol was a crack in that foundation. I waited a few days. I needed to be calm, to be sure. I wrote down what I wanted to say, not to read to her, but to get it straight in my own head. When I talked to Mark about it, I was ready. "We need to set rules for your mum," I said. He flinched at the word rules. "That sounds so harsh. It's necessary. Her behavior is damaging. It's damaging my mental health, which means it's bad for Lucas, and it's trying to damage our marriage. I can't have her in our home like this anymore." We talked for a long time. He resisted at first, the whole "she doesn't mean it, she loves us" routine, but I was done. I wasn't asking. I was telling him what I needed to be able to function, to be the mother and wife I wanted to be. Finally, he nodded. He looked defeated, but he nodded. "Okay, what are the rules?" I had 3. They seemed so basic, so obvious, that it felt insane to have to say them out loud. 1. Respect our parenting choices. No more comments about feeding, sleeping, or anything else. No going behind our backs. If we say something, that's the rule. 2. No drama. No passive-aggressive remarks, no guilt trips, and absolutely no trying to talk to one of us about the other. Our home is a no-conflict zone. 3. She follows our house rules. When she's here, she respects our routines, our food choices, our limits on screen time for Lucas as he gets older. Consistency. "That's it?" Mark asked. That's it. If she can't do those 3 things, she can't be here. We agreed to present it together as a united front. We invited her over on a Sunday afternoon when Lucas was down for a nap. I made tea, which felt stupidly formal. She knew something was up. She sat at the kitchen table, looking between us. "This feels serious," she said, trying to laugh it off. Mark started. He was nervous, stumbling over his words. "Mom, we love having you here. We love that you want to be so involved with Lucas. But we need to talk about some things. To make sure everything is healthy for everyone." I took over. I kept my voice flat, calm. I laid out the 3 rules. I didn't frame them as a reaction to things she'd done wrong. I framed them as our family's needs. This is how our home operates now. For Lucas to feel secure, he needs to see that all the adults in his life are on the same page. We need you to be on that page with us. She listened. Her face went from confusion to hard. "So, I'll go all on." She listened. Her face went from confused to hard. When I finished, there was a long silence. Then she laughed, a short, sharp sound. "Are you kidding me? Rules? For me? I'm his grandmother." "These aren't just for you," Mark said quietly. "They're for everyone." "This is your doing," she said, looking right at me, her eyes cold. "I knew you'd turn him against me eventually. You've always wanted to cut me out. You're trying to keep my grandson from me." "That's not true," I said. "We want you in his life. But it has to be a positive part of his life, and of ours. So I have to walk on eggshells in my own son's house. I can't give my young grandson a piece of cheese if I want to. I can't tell my son if I'm worried about something." "You're telling me how to be a grandmother. It's humiliating." "We're telling you how to be a guest in our home," I said. The word guest hung in the air. She flinched. She stood up. "I don't need this. I raised 2 children just fine without a list of rules from my daughter-in-law." She looked at Mark. "I'm disappointed in you, letting her do this." She grabbed her purse and walked out. We heard her car start and drive away. The silence after was heavy. Mark put his head in his hands. "Well, that went great." I felt shaky, but also a strange sense of relief. The line was drawn. It was out in the open. That was 4 months ago. She hasn't been back. She calls Mark, but she doesn't ask about me. She asks about Lucas. He gives her updates, sends pictures. Sometimes he puts her on speakerphone so she can say hello to Lucas, who babbles at the sound of her voice. It's awkward, stilted. Mark sees her for lunch sometimes, without us. He says she asks when she can see Lucas. He tells her the invitation is always open, as long as she can respect our home. She says she shouldn't have to earn the right to see her grandchild. It's a stalemate. I thought setting the boundary would make the noise stop. In some ways it has. My house is peaceful. I'm not bracing for criticism every day. Lucas and I have our rhythm, but the quiet is its own kind of noise. I wonder, constantly, if I was too harsh. If I should have just put up with it. If I've created a rift that Lucas will feel the absence of later. I look at him sometimes, smiling and clapping his hands, so innocent of all this tension, and I feel a wave of guilt. Did I protect him, or did I deprive him? Mark is caught in the middle. I see the strain on him. He loves his mom. He wants his son to know his grandma. He wishes it was simpler. Sometimes he'll say things like, "You know, she's just lonely," or "She really does love him." I don't know if he's trying to convince me or himself. I just nod. What is there to say? The rules are still there. They're simple. They're reasonable. To me, they're the bare minimum for respect. To her, they're a punishment, a rejection. I don't know how to bridge that gap. I don't know if I should even try. So we're here, in this holding pattern. Lucas is getting bigger every day. He's starting to crawl. He has a tooth coming in. His grandma isn't here to see any of it. And some days, that feels like a failure. Not hers, mine.